Everyone. So today I will be revisiting the Mahabharata again, and I'll be talking about he's known as one of the masterminds of the Mahabharata, and probably one of the reasons why it even happened in the first place. And his name is Shakuni. So he was basically the brother of this queen named Gandhari, and she was the mother of the 100 Kauravas. So the Mahabharata is basically a war between two cousins, the Pandavas and the Kauravas. So there's five Pandava brothers, and then there's 100 Kaurava brothers. So she was the mother of the Kauravas. When she was young, there was an astrologer that predicted that Gandhari's first marriage was going to end very badly for her or her husband. So one of them was probably going to die. So Shakuni and Gandhari's father, King Shubhala, was worried, and so he thus married her to a goat first, and then killed the goat, technically making Gandhari a widow. And then Gandhari went on then to marry a blind king, Dhritarashtra, so that she could finally have a successful marriage. So the one person that deemed Dhritarashtra a suitable bride for Gandhari was this king named Bhishma. So Bhishma was basically the head of this clan called the Kuru clan, which is the clan that all the Kauravas were a part of. So King Shubhla was happy with the alliance. However, Shakuni was not happy with the idea of his sister marrying a blind king. But his opinion on the matter wasn't significant because he was the youngest of 100 brothers. So no one really listened to him. And this really made him resent King Bhishma a lot, and this motivated him to ultimately take revenge on the Kuru clan. So later on, King Dhritarashtra got to find out about the marriage of Gandhari to a goat, and he obviously wasn't very happy about it. And he was even more upset about the fact that they kept it a secret from him, which I was thinking about it and I was like, really? You think they would have told you that their daughter married a goat and thought that you would say, oh yes, yes, I totally want to marry your daughter now. But anywho, so King Dhritarashtra was really upset about it. So in retaliation, he basically imprisoned Shakuni, all of his 99 brothers, and King Shubhala, and gave them one fistful of rice to eat every day in hopes that they would all starve to death because he didn't want to execute them or anything and be have blood on his hands. So he said, okay, if I let them starve to death, at least they'll die and I won't be directly responsible for it. And so King Shubhala figured out that, okay, if all of us try to split up this one fistful of rice, we're all going to die. And that's not very justified because he wanted ultimately someone to take revenge for the injustice that they were going through. And so he figured out that, okay, Shakuni is obviously the smartest son of mine. So I'm just going to have him eat all of the rice and the rest of us can die instead. So his goal motivation was obviously for Shakuni to take revenge. And then once King Shubhala died, Shakuni basically made a dice out of his father's bones, which only followed his commands. And also before King Shubhala died, he broke Shakuni's ankle so that he would have a limp. That way to remind him that, listen, every time you walk, you'll suffer, and then you'll remember our suffering. And then if you start feeling any compassion for King Bhishma or King Dhritarashtra or any of his sons, you'll remember, wait, remember what happened to my family? I have to take revenge on that. So that's why he broke his ankle, so he was going to be constantly in pain and reminded of the pain that his brothers and father had to go through. So ultimately Shakuni survived, and finally King Dhritarashtra got over his whole grudge and he went on to release Shakuni. So after King Dhritarashtra and Queen Gandhari had their children, the eldest child of theirs was Duryodhana. So Shakuni was basically very important to Duryodhana, and he basically poisoned his mind with negative feelings for the Pandavas. So this was actually his way of starting to get back at the Kuru clan because he knew that if he built up this animosity between the Pandavas and the Kauravas, they were going to definitely fight. And Shakuni knew from the beginning that the Pandavas were definitely, even though there were only 5 of them, they were way more skilled in battle, way more skilled in warfare, and were definitely going to win the war. So this was actually his way of destroying the Kuru clan because he knew that the Pandavas would kill all the Kauravas. And so in order to get the ball rolling to actually start the war, King Shakuni caused the Pandavas to go into exile through a game of gambling. And in the game, he used his dice that he made out of his father's bones and basically set up, it was all rigged. And he set up everything in favor of the Kauravas so that the Pandavas lost everything they had and the Kauravas got everything. So ultimately, this led to the war, and the Pandavas ultimately won. And then Shakuni decided that on the last day of the war, he completely, actually openly accepted his death, and one of the Pandavas, Sahadeva, killed him. So at that point, I think Shakuni was pretty much content with just dying because all the Kauravas had died, and he knew that at this point he had avenged his father and his brothers. So his purpose basically in the world was finished, and he said, now I can openly accept death. So the main analysis I think here is just of the character of Shakuni and what he can teach us. And usually he's referred to as the evil uncle in the Mahabharata, but I actually don't think he's all that terrible. And my philosophy on most of these myths and any myths is that whether you're a good character or a bad character, you have faults and you have strengths. And while we can all easily point fingers at Shakuni and be like, wow, he killed his own nephews, we have to remember that his whole family was killed. He had to watch his brothers and his father die one by one. And all because of this man that he never even wanted his sister to marry. And that was definitely a motivating factor for him. And after seeing all that death, I think, I'm not saying it's completely justified to go ahead and kill the rest of your nephews, but I could see where his motivation was coming from. And he didn't directly kill them, he just planted the seeds of doubt in the beginning. And they ultimately, I think the Kauravas ultimately made the dumb decision to be like, well, we can defeat the Pandavas. And if they had had some logic as well, they wouldn't have listened to Shakuni. And then again, from this we can draw that everyone is not good or bad. And we must see the good in a seemingly evil person and take it for what it is. And then I think we can also see that any great plan takes time and effort. Like Rome wasn't built in a day. So, and Shakuni is the prime example of this because this whole plan was years in the making, like 20, I feel like almost 20 to 25 years in the making. But this whole time he was just thinking, okay, I have to avenge my family, I have to avenge my brothers, I have to avenge my father. And Duryodhana, the eldest Kaurava, was known to make very quick decisions out of anger. And if it actually wasn't for Shakuni and his wit and Shakuni's ability to know when the right time to strike is and how to target people's weaknesses, then the Kauravas really wouldn't have had any of the success they did. The Kauravas did end up ultimately losing the war. They did have some successes and wins in this battle. However, I feel like they wouldn't have had even those if it weren't for Shakuni. And it was because of Shakuni that the main catalyst that started the war happened, which was the game of dice that Shakuni himself had convinced the Pandavas to come and play with them and ultimately lose their kingdom and everything that they had. And this is actually another story in its own, so if you guys are interested in knowing more details about the whole dice game and the gambling story, then please like this video and leave a comment below if you would be interested in that. And yeah, I'll definitely elaborate on that if that's what you guys all want. And also, ultimately Shakuni did, acquire his goal of defeating the whole Guru clan. And even though it took many, many years, he could have just gone and slaughtered them all in their sleep. But he did it in a way where they kind of destroyed themselves. And I think that's the genius behind Shakuni, because he didn't have to lift a sword, he didn't have to cut anyone physically. He just played his game with his wit, and they ended up destroying themselves. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this myth and this analysis. And again, if there's any subplots within this myth that you guys are more interested in, or from any of my previous myths that you'd like me to elaborate more on and create a whole new story and analysis of, please leave it in the comments below. And if there's any other myths you guys want me to review or talk about, then I would gladly love to make a video on that as well. So yeah, just please let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys all enjoyed this, and take care. Bye.